When you exercise virtuous self-control consistently, you become a much more effective human being. Circumstances that used to stop you in your tracks become minor inconveniences. Schedules that used to intimidate you become routine and no big deal. Today is part 1 of a 2-part lesson on becoming highly skilled at bridging the gap between intention and action. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Self-Control from Fitness to Flourishing. To consistently exercise virtuous self-control in the moment of choice, you need to fulfill 3 conditions. First, you need to recognize the moment of choice when it occurs. Second, you need to know your standard of excellence for the moment of choice. And third, you need to consistently choose to live up to that standard in that moment. You fulfill the first 2 conditions by writing what I call an intention statement, which we'll be going over today. You fulfill the 3rd condition by using the discipline. That's part 2, and we'll get into it tomorrow. To plan effectively for the moment of choice, you'll be writing what are called when, then, or if, then statements. This is based on research done by Peter Gallwitzer. He called these implementation intentions. Here's what you do. First, you determine the trigger event. This is how you'll recognize the moment of choice. That's condition 1. This is the when or the if. For example, the alarm that you've set signaling the time to exercise has chimed. That's when you must enact a choice. Second thing is that you set your preferred behavior or behaviors for that moment. And this is how you'll know how to be consistent with your standard of excellence. That's condition 2. This is the then. For example, standing on your exercise mat within 3 minutes of hearing the alarm. You need to make your standard of excellence physical action, not thinking. You want this physical action to be something that someone else can observe, if they were observing. Not that there will be. But that makes it clear that just thinking is not something anybody else could possibly see or that would show up on video. Set a maximum of 3 physical actions to clearly define your standard of excellence. The simpler the plan, the better. If there's too much to remember, the brain will go with an easier plan, one that's already a habit. And probably in this case, that would be procrastinating or ignoring the alarm. The intention statement is written in present tense, as if you are doing it right now. I will, if that's how you wrote it, is a potential. It's in the future. Chances are when you imagine that sentence, I will, the scenario you see yourself in will be as if you're watching somebody else do it, even if it's yourself. You're disassociated from the experience. However, I am is identification. It's in the present. When you imagine this scenario, you are experiencing it as if you're actually doing it. You're associated with the experience. So always use the phrase I am in all your intention statements. You must identify yourself with your preferred behaviors, because then you'll be thinking, it's like me to exercise every day. This is what I do. This identification, when it's become non-conscious and habitual, your automatic behavior determines what you do as second nature. This becomes what I call your new conditioned self. Now I need to take an aside here because I have a model of the mind that I call the 3 selves. This consists of the choosing self, which we've discussed in past episodes, The ancient Greek word for this is proeresis, the faculty of choice. Then, in my model, there's the conditioned self. You can think of this as the non-conscious processes running in the background, like your habits, automatic behaviors, and these are triggered by circumstances in your life. This self has been conditioned by chance or by your deliberate choice. And the last self in my model is the preferred self. This is who you aspire to be if you are excellent in every way. And I'm going to cover those in another episode. Back to the intention statement. Our example intention statement might look like this. When my time to exercise alarm chimes, then I'm standing on my exercise mat within 3 minutes of hearing the alarm. And if you wanted to clearly define this standard a little bit further, you could include up to 3 physical actions. For example, when my time to exercise alarm chimes, then I'm grabbing my water bottle, putting on my workout clothes, and standing on my exercise mat within 3 minutes of hearing the alarm. You want the when-then statement to delineate only one possible enacted choice. When this, and then that triggering event, the chime in this case, occurs, then this one set of actions or one physical behavior is what you do. You don't want the trigger, in this case the alarm, to signal a time to think about making a choice. The trigger is the signal to physically enact the choice that you have already thought through. The environment itself sets the choice in motion. In this case, the environment that you have set up is the alarm itself. Now, in the event you fail to operate with excellence in the moment, that means you don't follow through. You must determine the relevant factors that resulted in the failure. You can ask yourself, what went wrong? What stopped me from following through? What contributed to the failure? When you know what the challenge is, you can actually create an intention statement to deal with it if it's important enough. For example, I missed my scheduled workout because I wasn't wearing my watch, so I didn't hear the alarm. Now, why wasn't I wearing it? Because I took it off when I had a shower and I forgot to put it back on. So in this case, you might set up an intention statement. Might not be necessary. You might just always put it in the same spot. But you could say, when I take off my watch to shower, then I put it on the shirt I'll be wearing after the shower and put it back on before I put on the shirt. Then that'll take care of that mistake in the future. Now you'll use the discipline, which I'm going to explain in the next episode, to either reinforce or to redirect what happened. What I suggest you do with the intention statements is that you review them every morning. Read it, imagine the scenario described in sensory-rich detail, fully associated. Make it a full synthetic experience, as real as you can imagine. You don't have to take much time with this, maybe a minute, maybe even 30 seconds. And then continue using these intention statements until the desired behavior, for example, this one, standing on your exercise mat within 3 minutes of hearing the alarm, has become a natural, effortless part of your daily routine. Once it's part of your conditioned self, you can relax your conscious efforts and turn your focus to the next behavior change. Start learning this skill with a maximum of maybe 3 to begin with. Or just 1. Just experiment. There's no need to overwhelm yourself by trying to fix everything in your life all at once. With experience, you will learn what a comfortable number of intention statements are that works for you. And then one last thing, I recommend that you actually write these intention statements down in a journal. Now, you don't need to do this, but having a dedicated place for this will show you how much you've changed over time. Because what often happens is that when behaviors become habits, we tend to just stop thinking about them as something that we had to work to learn. That's just the way I am now. I love working out every day. We likely forget how much effort it took to build that habit. And if you have a record of it, then you have a journal of the intentional changes that you've made over the years. Now, there are a few other details that I could go into, but I'm trying to keep this short, and I'm getting pretty close to being 10 minutes, if not already over. So I might go into this a little bit further. If you want more details, do let me know. Tomorrow, we'll go over how to reinforce success or how to redirect failure in bridging that gap between intention and action. That's it for today. Catch you next time.